Good evening. This is Jana Lunden from the Natural Women's Council based in Ireland, but with an international presence. So please, if you can like, share, and subscribe to Crypto Rich, that would be excellent. We fully support all the work that he's doing.
Hey, Jana. Hey, Blaine. Thank you so much for making yourselves available.
Great to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Yes. Now, Blaine's been on my channel before and Jana's been on my channel before. You've never been on together. We're going to be talking about what's happening in Europe, but in particular in Ireland, because Ireland is, like says, a microcosm of what's plaguing the European Union, apart from Hungary and Poland, and also the United Kingdom. And this podcast is going to go out on my channel, Crypto Rich Politics, and also on Blaine's channel, Dangerous Intellectual. And as you can see, he is a dangerous intellectual. I have the links for him in the description below. And Jana, do you want to just introduce yourself briefly? And I'll link to your stuff in the description below as well.
Sure. Yep. So I'm Jana Lunden. I am from America. I've been in Ireland for 22, nearly 23 years. My two small children were born here. And 5 years ago, I founded the Natural Women's Council. We're a grassroots group. We don't get any public funding other than voluntary donations. And we really have been campaigning tirelessly with our group of volunteers for the safety and well-being of women, children, and families. And we are not a single issue organization. We look at everything that's a risk to women, children, and families in Ireland. And one thing we've been focusing on really much of the last 2 years is the education system and what's happening in the classroom against the wishes of the parents and the teachers and the students. And poisoning, indoctrinating young minds, sexualizing children. And we've been really putting a lot of focus on that, as well as things like the referendum last year where the Irish government did the unthinkable, trying to erase the words woman and mother from Bunreacht na in our constitution. Also, we campaign against men who think they're women trying to compete against us in sports. And the open borders is a really big concern because women do not feel safe on the streets here in Ireland anymore. So that's sort of a whistle-stop intro of the organization and what we've done over the last few years.
Yeah, you do absolutely fabulous work. It's been a while since you've been on my channel, and I know I follow you on X. You've been really, really busy. Blaine, do you want to start by asking Jana a question, given this is going to be in your podcast as well?
I do. Well, Jana, it's a pleasure to be connected with you, and I greatly applaud the work that you're doing in Ireland. I used to be the deputy United States representative to NATO, and so I have many dear friends all across Europe, including Ireland, and we talk all the time, and I help out where I can in Irish politics, briefing senators and trying to give them more of a sense of the strategic terrain that they find themselves on. But in my estimation, I find that the political class of Ireland, and you correct me, and I'd love to learn more, I find that the political class is woefully behind what the megatrends are in Ireland and what's really, really happening down on the street level, and how the culture is shifting, and the Irish people are losing their culture daily. And what is it that you see from your vantage point that would be helpful steps to try to ring the bell, so to speak, and get leaders in Ireland to stand up and understand the gravity of the situation?
Yeah, thanks. It's a great question. And I think the perspective I have is that the leaders or so-called leaders working in the Dáil in Ireland seem to know exactly what they're doing because they can see the destruction in Ireland. They are not answering to the Irish people. They are answering to the unelected global bureaucrats that sit in the United Nations, the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, and all of the global bureaucrats there. So I would say they know what's happening, and I believe what they're doing is deliberate. We've written them letters, typed letters until our fingers are raw. We've done assemblies outside the Dáil. We've met with the parliamentarians. This has been going on years, and the people are disenfranchised, and the government is not listening to the people because they don't feel they answer to the people in Ireland anymore. So I believe this is a deliberate attack on our freedom, attack on humanity, women, children. And if you look at the documents to back it up, you look at the Sustainable Development Goals, a lot of people don't know where this is coming from. So they look to the left, they look to the right, but the last one to see the water is the fish. And all people have to do is look up and look at the Sustainable Development Goals, look at the policies there, and realize quickly that the policies we're seeing in Ireland are coming from Europe, the European Union, United Nations. So what's happening is not by accident. It's actually a policy kind of reset. It's almost like you have your iPhone and you go to bed at night and there's a reboot and you get up in the morning and you're like, well, the outside of the phone looks the same. I can't figure out what's changed. It's been a factory reset. That's what's happening in our parliament here.
So and so the big question for a lot of folks all around the world, including the United States, we're just way far behind on all of this, is it's not incompetence, it's malevolence. It's not that the world woke up and suddenly put the world's worst group of world leaders in charge of things. And I do agree with you that, when I think of the World Economic Forum, actually what I see is middle management. What I really see is the City of London types and the biggest families in the world that, go for all these crazy things from depopulation to vaccine or death, digital ID, CBDC. But I guess when I look at Ireland, it seems that Ireland, with UK just a close second, Rich, you would know better, but it looks like Ireland is a test bed of sorts for them to work out some of these diabolical things, the forced invasion, the culture erosion. And I love how Sasha Kreiner puts this, and I'm sure you've seen it when he says, hey, they're just putting black ants and red ants in a jar, and they're shaking the jar with the lid on it while everybody's killing everybody. And so from where you're sitting, I would say from over, and I'm way far away in a land called Idaho, but from Idaho, it looks like Ireland is heading to violence, and probably fairly soon, in a much more widespread manner than what we've seen in the past.
I would agree with that.
Jana,
And
sorry, Jana, can I just come in quickly, right? So and then Jana, please answer his question. Then there's something I want to ask you. So one, it's absolutely deliberate.
Yes.
It's not by accident that somebody decides, oh, let's strike out women from the Constitution. It's not by accident that Keir Starmer says, okay, we're going to get rid of jury trials. That's not an accident. That is deliberate malevolence. And the nature of genocide was, we got the net zero here in the United Kingdom. I think in Ireland as well, in the European Union, zero, or Khmer Rouge wanting to go to ground zero. They wanted to go to nothing, to start all over again. So it's the same thing here with the Soviets wanting to get rid of capitalist influence and everything so they could have a pure society. It's the same deal, but now the weapons are information and injections.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Jana, please answer his question, then I got a question for you.
Yeah, so Ireland, I believe, is the petri dish for globalism. And this started, decades ago. You probably heard of Peter Sutherland. He was the godfather of globalism and, knee deep in WEF. And of course, when Ireland absorbed nearly half of the EU debt after the crash, Ireland took on the whole debt of Europe when our so-called leaders flew to Davos and then blamed the banking crash on the Irish people. So Ireland is the petri dish, I think, for a lot of reasons. One is we're small. They feel that we're easy to control. We're an island, so we don't have any, the borders are very clear. But also the Irish people are some of the nicest people I've ever met. I've been here nearly 23 years. I fell in love with the country for the people, the culture, the music, as they say, the fun is called the crack, the great way of life. And the Irish people are known for the land of, 100,000 welcomes, and they have weaponized the Irish people's empathy to the point where it's suicidal empathy. So the Irish people were oppressed for 800 years. Ireland has never invaded another country. We don't have a past of colonialism. So the Irish people already have that deep-rooted sort of oppression and maybe shame and guilt. So when they flooded our borders and said all of these people are fleeing war, first it was the Ukraine and when the women and children came over, but quickly now the people coming over are not Ukrainian, they're not women, and they're not children. They are single men, young men, fighting age men, many from Islamic cultures, and also they are coming from other countries that are safe. I think over 85% come right down in from Northern Ireland or the UK. So they're not fleeing persecution or war. So the Irish people are still convinced that these people are fleeing war, persecution, coming for a better life, without really looking at the data to say, well, what countries are they coming from? And look and say, they're coming from Georgia, Jordan, Albania, Algeria, Nigeria. These countries aren't in war. But rather than look at the data, the media is the big problem. And they have really brainwashed people to say that if you don't accept these unvetted single male migrants, then you're a racist. You're a bigot, you're far right. And when people go to protest against their villages and towns being flooded with these single men, safety is a big issue. We saw what happened at City West recently, which was an atrocity. For
people who don't know,
with
what
regards
happened
to,
at City West, Jana?
so City West was just, I mean, this was just the unthinkable. So there was a little girl who was a 10-year-old Irish girl in state care, a state care home. Child Protection Services, TUSLA, have these homes for vulnerable children. Somehow this 10-year-old girl escaped the care home, meant to be being looked after by people and caring for her. She's vulnerable. She ended up at an iPass center called City West. It used to be Ireland's biggest hotel, lots of
What
concerts.
iPass is?
IPAS is the international protection. The asylum seekers all go into these hubs. So the international protection hubs. This used to be the biggest hotel in Ireland. It was by far, you had concerts. There was Disney on Ice. It was the hub in Ireland for people all around the country to come to. It's now been purchased by the state with taxpayer money to open it up into the largest asylum seeker hotel in the country. This little 10-year-old ended up escaping her care home, getting into this IPAS center and being violently raped by a migrant who got his deportation orders in March, months before this tragedy. So that never should have happened. There are so many systemic failures there. We had just a couple of years ago 3 school children stabbed in broad daylight on Parental Square outside their school by a migrant. I don't even believe he's been sentenced. I think he's getting some mental health assessments or some sort of thing.
Right.
But the migrant crime is every day you see stabbings, rapes, sexual assaults, and there's cultures that are coming to Ireland that don't integrate with Christianity, cultures that do not respect women. Someone commented on Twitter, a doctor, an Islamic doctor, commented that, perhaps something along the lines of perhaps these men coming in regarding all the sexual assaults, they just need some cultural training to basically not rape a woman when she smiles at them.
They
sorry,
can't do that in their own home countries, though. That's the thing.
Exactly.
They've normalized this in the media to say,
Mhm.
oh, well, we have to all teach them how to assimilate here. And it's like, no. This doesn't go over in Qatar, in Dubai, in Pakistan. It does not happen. In fact, you'll see hands get chopped off. That's what happens there. It's amazing.
So Ireland's in trouble. We're in trouble with our open borders. We're seeing, an average of 72,000 migrants come every year. The curve is going up and up and up. We had over, I think, 100,000 last year. The Minister for Justice Department reported in the last couple of years that up to 85% of those landing have no passports. We heard Michael O'Leary, CEO of Ryanair, comment that the passports are being flushed down the toilet. So how can you get on a plane without a passport? They're destroying them when they're on the plane, getting off, and they can go through the process. They self-declare their name. They self-declare their country of origin. They're put up in free housing. And after 3 years, they could get a passport. But just this week, they changed the rule to 5 years before getting citizenship. Now, anyone listening in the diaspora, particularly the US administration, should understand that Ireland could be letting in terrorists, criminals, and rapists, which we are, I believe. And they can go through the process, through our flawed process, and get travel documents to leave Ireland and commit a crime anywhere in the world. Due to our failed process, we are not being the best boy in class by putting our neighbors across the pond or in Europe at risk because of our failures.
Yep. Jana, thank you so much. I just want to come back on a few things, right, that you said. So one, when this goes out on Blaine's podcast, Dangerous Intellectuals, people need to know that when Jana was talking about how lovely the Irish people are, I was shaking my head vigorously. I grew up in a part of London with a very large Irish Catholic community, and I've been to Ireland not enough times. It's a wonderful, wonderful culture, wonderful people, without a history of colonialism. And then something I want to address for, I suppose, from people from a sort of progressive Guardianista demographic, where Jana's just saying this about migrants committing crime because she's a racist. No, you've got to look at how people operate. These are people who are coming over. They don't have jobs. There isn't work for them. If there was work for them because the economy was expanding, they'd have to be responsible in order to maintain those jobs.
Absolutely.
But no, these are people that are being funded by the Irish taxpayer at the Irish taxpayer's expense. They're mostly men. So you got all these young men with loads of testosterone running around. And it's a really great opportunity for someone in Pakistan, for a criminal in Algeria, for a criminal in Nigeria. I'm in trouble here. I'm going to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to go to Ireland where I get all these benefits and stuff. So there is that happening. Plus, we don't know anything about how many of them are drug traffickers or human traffickers or organ traffickers or girl traffickers. We just don't know because they're unvetted. And what it does, it diminishes the trust in a society where there isn't connectedness and relationship between people. You have a low trust society. In a low trust society, you have high crime.
Yes.
And that's the case in some of the, not just in the West, but also in some of the larger urban centers in the third world, like in Karachi, where you've had lots of internal immigration, people from all over parts of Pakistan, different tribes, different languages, different groups. Okay, all Muslim, but you reduce the trust in that community, and then you have more crime. And that's happening all over where we have these open borders, which is another deliberate policy by those that are out to destroy that which allows us to anchor ourselves to who we are, which is our culture and our faith and our tradition. And just so people are really clear, I'm Pakistani, I'm Muslim, and I don't want Roman Catholic culture destroyed. I don't want any culture destroyed, because we're all honorable and equal in the eyes of God.
You know, I think, Rich, that this really, for their recipe book, it's really just camouflage. The clash of the cultures is just identifying which are red ants and which are black ants, and let's put them into position. What I think they're after, and I don't even think it's removal of jobs. I think it's just a pleasant byproduct that gets anger going up even more. But what I think they're after, because it's the exact same recipe here in the United States, or at least it was for 4 years when Biden left our borders open, is to create some sort of civil war effect in the nation. Now, these are all disciples of everything from depopulation to eugenics to I'm going to jab you with something to make you infertile. They're hell bent on making less of us. And then when you really think about it, these folks, these globalists, they are trans culture. They are, and what I mean by that is they're above culture. They will even identify themselves as citizens of the world. In other words, borders are meaningless to them, and cultures are meaningless to them. And they scoff and they laugh at us. When I was a military fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations, I had been there after some meetings where the brandy comes out and people are talking, and I had seen some very powerful people just scoffing and laughing at the commoners and the middle classers as fodder. And I think what they've convinced themselves of is that robotics, AI, and controls like ultimate surveillance, pre-crime, AI algorithms have put them into a technological position to finally go for checkmate and lock down people. And as dire as that sounds, as a strategist, I'll tell you that no plan ever survives contact with the enemy. And and then underestimating the creativity and of the innovation of folks who raised themselves up and independently took care of their families the hard way. Well, that's the danger to them. And I think, you know, in the case of Ireland, what I'm worried about, and what I told this senator, and I think she'll probably hear this podcast, but what I told this senator was, I hate to give you a dark assessment, but you're past the point of protests. You're not going to protest your way out of this. That's done. And I get it. She loves her country, and she's not one of the, what I would call the cabal middle managers, but she was looking for solutions. And I said, I'm sorry. If you had come to me 5, 6, 7 years ago, if you had come to me when I was at NATO, finishing up my career in 2016, I could have given you a peaceful plan. I could have shown you what that would have looked like. But even then, the United States, we had senators coming to visit me in Brussels who were screaming and yelling at me, literally, in my office, because I wouldn't give them a soundbite to say that Russia was the greatest existential crisis to Europe. I was pounding them right back, saying, no, it's the illegal invasion happening here, and it's all fighting age men. I could care less what their religion is or where they come from. In the United States, it's Transgender and Hezbollah and the People's Liberation Army of China. Doesn't matter. But they all have the same mission. And that's what I'm trying to identify. Rather than wear tinfoil hats, we need to recognize that there is a central command authority. And it's not just happenstance that all the same exact events happen all over the world. The only reason we're a little bit on a slower track right now in the United States is because Trump. And they hate his guts and they want to remove him, and they've tried.
Yep. Yeah. You're in the UK, actually anywhere, get a VPN if you want to be able to access all sorts of perspectives.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jana, two very quick things. Yeah. One of the points that Ian Burlingham made, one of the reasons why Ireland is so important is because I don't know how many billions or trillions of dollars that are parked in the Irish economy through companies like Apple and others that have their operations there, that are headquartered out of there. The other thing is that for those that are all into we have to take care of immigrants and all of that, right? Open borders deprive host countries of the productivity and the wealth generation of this cohort. of people, the most productive of all. The
Mhm.
host countries they lose out as well. Jana, over to you, please.
Yes. So you mentioned all the multinationals here, and when I moved over 22 years ago, I actually came to work in Ireland with a multinational, and I went on to work for another one as well. And I asked, well, why are all the multinationals here when I first came? The tax break they were here for nearly zero tax. It just increased slightly, but we have the headquarters: Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, all the big pharma companies, and the concern that Irish people should have is, even wrote a letter to the Irish government, I think it was December 2023, that said if we pass these totalitarian hate speech laws and we drift from democracy, how is that going to be handled? If you drift away, take away free speech, that is the bedrock of democracy. And all of the employees that are working for these multinationals, American companies, if they are working in a place that stifles their free speech or criminalizes them for a meme or what have you, and the US is all about free speech, how is that going to work? I mean, those multinationals could say, sorry, we're leaving Ireland. And if they leave, you know, I would say half of Ireland work for these multinationals. If they leave, the crash here will be bigger than we've ever seen. There'll be a recession like never before. Maybe that's what we need to build back better and have our own great reset, to start from rock bottom again. I like you said, I don't know how we're going to get out of this. The peaceful protest, the Irish people have been peacefully protesting for years against this migration. And how the state responds, the state brings out the pepper spray. I've met people who have been pepper sprayed in the face, including journalists, including elderly, including children. They're bringing out water cannons. They're beating people with batons. I mean, the Garda brutality, or whoever these riot squads are, is off the chart, something that we would never have seen in Ireland 10 years ago. And then what they do is cause riots. So when the 10-year-old girl was raped by an illegal migrant, the riots broke out. There's a lot of agitators that start riots, blew up, Garda cars on fire, started a lot of trouble. Those weren't people on our side. Those were people in there agitating. So the government then goes out and says, forget about the 10-year-old girl that got raped. Look at the far right riots. Same playbook from those 3 school children that were stabbed. Don't look over here at the 3 kids that were stabbed. Look at the far right riots. But people are starting to see through that now. Those labels like far right and racist, bigot, hateful. The Irish people are seeing through that
They're falling
now.
away.
85% of Irish have a problem with immigration. That came out in a mainstream poll. 85% have a concern.
85% are far right white supremacists like me.
85% of us are far right. That's right. So,
Rich, you far. Where's your KKK badge, man?
where's my sheet over there?
Oh, my other top.
So I think the other thing is problem, reaction, solution. I know you're both very
the
familiar
Hegelian
with it.
dialectic, right? That's right.
Flood the borders, create the civil war, create the chaos, and then all of a sudden they're going to criminalize people for trying to stand up against it, and then bring in digital ID for your safety. Bring in the digital ID. Problem,
Here's what happens,
solution.
and this is my worry: if the European people, and we the people is a global concept. I know our constitution starts with that, but we the people is a global concept, because honestly, the world war that we're in right now, it's us against those who you cannot see that are in the shadows. Mm-hmm. And here's the greater danger to Europe right now, as I see it, as if it wasn't dangerous enough. J.D. Vance, our vice president, love him, hate him, doesn't matter to me. I'm very fair. I don't like any political party in this country, but he did come to Europe to the Munich Security Conference, and he laid down a very stern warning. And the warning was, if European leaders keep rolling up on civil rights, basic rights in the continent, it's going to reflect on the United States' relationship to Europe, because prosperity, security, and values are the 3-legged stool that makes up why the United States would be interested in remaining in Europe after World War II. Well, the values piece is falling away. So right now, you've got these 2 deadly tracks. Track 1 is the values piece. Not only did they not heed Vance's warnings, the UK, Ireland, Spain, France, Belgium, they're all doubling down on this. You want freedom? You're going to have to go on over to Hungary and go find it there. So that's a problem, because now we don't have the values part. Prosperity is falling away because all of these idiots are destroying and deindustrializing their economies at the altar of climate change. And we got to rearm to go get Russia, which is some fantasy that I absolutely watch them play out. Starmer and Macron, they play with toy soldiers. They've never even seen a gun. And so there's that. That also goes to the security. Well, if all the stool legs are falling away, and the European leaders are resisting President Trump's overtures to get the Ukraine war done and behind us, as bad as it is, 2 million people dead and not looking any better, well, then the message to the continent is going to be, well, what do you need us for? So maybe U.S. European command is no longer necessary. We've got other security problems right in our own backyard. The Monroe Doctrine's looking better and better all the time here. Now, I'm not advocating for that, but what I am saying is Europe has been in a relative state of peace, minus some of the globalist wars in the Balkans and other places, since World War II. And NATO not being an offensive alliance, but rather a defensive alliance, has made the difference. If those things go away, Europe's got a lot more to lose than multinationals. Mm-hmm. And deindustrializing itself. I mean, God, look at what's happening in Germany with Merz. It's disgusting. Then we're going to see the continent go to the dark places we saw in World War I, World War II. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, my prescription over here would be, and now we're going to have to go back to Europe, guys. So it's a very dangerous cocktail. And the only way out of this that I can see is the people themselves. They have to understand the perils are much, much greater than Dublin coming under totalitarian control. There is way more at stake, and it involves your children, your grandchildren, and their children.
Which, Blaine, neatly segues into children.
Yes.
Children, yes, that's what I've been campaigning on for the last several years. In our school curriculum is it's a disaster. What's happening in our schools?
Just on that, I just remember, and perhaps all three of us can recall, when we were at school, all those confused children in our classes who didn't know whether they were boys and girls. Remember them?
No.
No, I don't either.
No. There were no boys in my school that wore dresses and wanted to wear makeup. There were no girls who wanted to remove their healthy breasts. That just didn't exist in the 70s, 80s, or 90s. It's a social contagion because of the social engineering. Socially engineering.
Those were good years.
We'd all go back there.
Yep. Drinking from a water hose. You haven't lived until you've done that.
Blaine, we're going to go back. We're going to leave your mind and your memories and go back to what Jana was saying.
Yeah, so we'd all go back to the 70s and 80s. I would love to have my children have the same childhood I did. I grew up in a rural town in Maine, and I would take off on my bike in the morning and cycle to swimming lessons or tennis lessons and play with friends. We had no mobile phones. We did what was called wayfinding. We found our way. We met friends in the village. We just got on with it. There was no fear. It was all freedom. So I would love that. And that's what we're fighting for the children here in Ireland. But we've joined up, the Natural Women's Council has joined up with 7 countries. So we have England, Wales, America, Canada, Ireland, New Zealand, and Australia in our coalition now, because what we're seeing happen in Ireland is playbook across all of the countries in the West. The school curriculum looks the same. It's not coming from the left or right. It's coming from the top. We've looked at the documents from the World Health Organization, Standards of Sexuality. That document advises that we should teach age 4 how to touch themselves for pleasure and masturbate. Teach age 9 about their first sexual experience. I have a daughter who's 10. I can hand on heart say she's not having her first sexual experience. And we know what type of person would think it's okay for a child to have a sexual experience. So that's happening. It's a highly sexual curriculum. It teaches sex for pleasure. If it feels good, that's fine as long as you consent. It's highly sexual. There's one book in the classroom that has 7 pages of detailed masturbation, how you masturbate, Can you masturbate someone else, how do animals masturbate? I mean, horrific. My children would be mortified learning that in class with their peers. There's gender ideology in every subject. It's happening in the English books, the home economic books. There's trans activists that come into the Irish classroom for a week every year for stand-up week, teaching children about bottom surgery, top surgery, pronouns, don't misgender or dead name anyone. There's also the indoctrination with the climate alarmism. A lot of children...
Before we go to the climate alarmism, just about the sexualization of children and the transgender.
Yeah.
Why do you think the governments are pushing this? And then a supplementary question, how does it tie in with open borders?
Yes. So how this all comes again from the United Nations. You can look up the education SDG, Sustainable Development Goal, gender equity, all of that. All this LGBTQI plus stuff is coming right down from the top. It's heavily funded. Millions, billions is heavily invested into the trans agenda. You might ask, well, why would they want to do this to children? Why would we confuse children and blur the reality and make them think they're born in the wrong body? Two reasons. You talked a moment ago about depopulation. A child who takes puberty blockers or cross-sex hormones will be sterilized. They will not have their fertility intact as they enter adulthood. They won't procreate. If you confuse them, removing their body parts and giving them, medicalization, they likely will not want to be married and have a family, even if they can or can't. And if you blur the reality for those children and make a boy think they can be a girl or a girl think they can be a boy, once you blur that reality, you can convince them of anything. Because if a toddler is walking down the street, when they see people coming at them, they know that's a man, that's a woman, that's a boy, that's a girl. And if you teach a toddler or child in school that a man can be a woman, or a man introduces himself as "I'm Miss Smith," use my pronoun she, if you try to gaslight a child into believing that, manipulate their mind, they'll believe anything, and they'll become easily controlled by the state. And what we're seeing in the class is cultural Marxism. We've done loads of podcasts on this on our YouTube channel, naturalwomenscouncil.com, and go to our YouTube channel. Cultural Marxism is all about seeing things through the lens of being oppressed or an oppressor. So let's say, for example, if I'm trans, I'm oppressed. So I can become oppressed by being trans, and everybody has to be my ally. If you do not become an ally, you're an oppressor. So you're someone who's full of hate. You're a bigot. You have to buy into this or you will be outed. And in our new policy, this is where it's really, really cruel. In our new policy in school, the new anti-bullying policy that rolled out in all schools in Ireland down to age 5, it's called Be Conalta, which means be kind. It brings in transgenderism down to age 5, teaching 5-year-olds not to be a transphobic bully. And if they don't use someone's pronouns or use someone's birth name, will they be disciplined? Will they be disciplined? Yes, they can be under the policy if they don't buy into transgenderism from age 5. If they say, "No, I'm sorry, Johnny's a boy," you're full of hate. You're going on disciplinary. That's happening in schools. That policy rolled out this past month in Irish schools down to age 5.
Wow. Thank you. And the other, I agree with you completely. Just completely. One thing I'm certain of is I'm a man. Never had any doubt about it, right? But if you can twist my head to get me to think that I might be a woman, well, then you can twist my head any particular way.
Absolutely.
The other thing that it does, Jana, and this is where I think it ties in with mass immigration, it destroys people's connection to their own faith and their culture and their own religion. It completely undermines Catholicism and Christianity, and it undermines Islam, which is why in Qatar, when the Football World Cup was there, no, we don't have transgender, and we have toilets for men and we have toilets for women. We're not doing that here.
And it also dilutes, like in our school, there was a sign in the back of the school. It's not there now. It said global citizenship. So teaching Irish children in a primary school for young kids that they're not Irish citizens, they're global citizens. That's a direct term from the United Nations, World Economic Forum. No, my kids are born in Ireland. They're not global citizens, and they should be proud of their heritage, proud of their roots. There's a survey going around now for primary school parents to ask them to vote whether they want to keep the religious ethos in the school or remove it. Now, my children go to a Catholic school, and although that is bringing in some of the ideology, if they remove the Catholic ethos and there's no characteristic spirit of the school to defend, we lose that Education Act of 1998, Section 9D, that says they will retain the characteristic spirit of the school. If there is no spirit or Catholic ethos, it becomes a school of wokery. There'll be no Catholicism to protect our children from this. So just because the priests and bishops are letting it in, which we need to address and we have addressed, it doesn't mean that the ethos should be removed, to remove the denomination, because then we don't have the protection of that ethos to say, no, we're not teaching transgenderism in this school.
Yeah, the other part I would add to what you're saying, Jana, and we see it here in the United States at the local and the state level, is all of these programs regarding the kids are designed to disintermediate the role of the parent from the child. They're designed to put the state in prime position. We own your child, not you. And you see it all the time with these scare tactics. You see it a lot now in the UK where, oh, your kid's not jabbed, they're coming with us. Your kid is not, you're not going to let your kid take transgender surgery, your kid's coming with us. And they're locking up people, even here in the United States. In California, they're locking up people who are asserting their parental rights.
That's right.
And it's sick. It's sick. And again, it will keep on going, and this will not stop until the people themselves stop it. The government's not coming.
The government's not coming. They're coming for the children. And I did a conference in Maine in October with a group in Maine, Parents' Rights in Education up there. And I did a panel with some mothers. There's a mother there whose daughter was trans behind her back by a guidance counselor at school. The mother had no idea her daughter was identifying as a boy, no idea she was wearing boys' clothes at school, until she found a chest binder in her daughter's bedroom. And she said to her child, "Where did you get this?" Her child was 13. The school gave her a chest binder. So this this mother, Amber Levine, is trying to take the school to court. She lost in the first court, went to the second, didn't win, but she now has a sponsor and she's going to the Supreme Court. And I hope she absolutely sues the pants off that school for transing her daughter. In Ireland, it's getting really dangerous because there's a bill on the table called the prohibition of conversion therapy. So what that bill will do, it's only 2 pages long, is if there's a gender confused person, so let's say Johnny in school gets taught by the genderbread person that he can be a boy, girl, neither, or both. He goes to the guidance counselor at the school or the psychologist and says, "I feel confused. I think I'm a girl." They will have to affirm Johnny as a girl. They cannot explore the reason for the confusion, understand that, there's lots of reasons. I know we've talked about on our podcast in the past. It could be sex abuse, body dysphoria, just uncomfortable with puberty. That child will have to be affirmed. They will not be able to explore the reason for the confusion as any doctor should. And if they do, they can be fined up to €15,000. So that bill is on the table. So that the schools will become trans conveyor belts if this bill goes through. So
disgusting.
It's disgusting. It's child abuse. And
Yeah.
the books, we had these books in the library. We did a big library campaign, and this sent the establishment into a frenzy. We were finding highly sexual books in the library. So we did a campaign to go into the library, take out the book, serve a peaceful notice to the librarian, and walk out. And the state went around, all the media, the government went around saying the far right thugs and the extremists are going into libraries, abusing librarians, and spreading hate against the LGBTQs. No, we're removing porn from the children's section. So we got a lot of those books moved to the adult section through all of the efforts in every county in Ireland, but they went to town to slander and vilify and dehumanize us as mothers for taking those dangerous books out. We even went to 5 police stations in Ireland. We opened up 5 cases. We got case numbers, but they all got closed. They all got the memo.
And it again, back to the Central Command Authority, here in so-called conservative Idaho, here in northern Idaho, we're fighting the same thing. We're the exact same thing, but the exact same methodologies and what we call in the military tactics, techniques, and procedures are being used. And so when you sit there and you go, "Oh no, this is organic. This is happening in communities," it's like, no, it is not organic. These are playbooks. People are paid to do these things.
Yeah.
And it is a multi-pronged attack on
everything from everywhere.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Thank you. That would be your military training, I expect, saying that, right? But multi-pronged attack on every single aspect of our lives, destroying our faith, our culture, our tradition, our sovereignty, our freedom, our relationships with each other, everything. And then you were going on to climate alarmism. Now, tell me, you're not one of these people that thinks carbon dioxide is critical for photosynthesis. Are you?
We don't need that to live. Trees don't need that. Food doesn't need that to grow. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And so all of our very good efforts wiped out in an afternoon by a Chinese coal plant. It's just sell crazy someplace else. And yet crazy is going to create famines. Crazy is going to create droughts. And now the newest phenomena over the top of this is apparently we all need a data center to surveil us and watch our every move. And that takes away our water and our food as well. Brilliant.
Yes. Ireland has a load of these data centers. We have huge data centers in Ireland.
I know you do.
And of course, all of these globalists flying to Davos on their private jets to talk about we shouldn't be using power traveling.
Eating steak,
we should eat crickets, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Jana, I could just picture you as a far right tattoo thug.
You extremist.
I'm an extremist. Into libraries, they call me a terrorist as well. And an arsonist. Actually, they went into the government building when I tried to take down a trans activist group from coming into schools. They had my face on the screen in the doll, and they said that I'm linked to burning down immigration centers. So
wow. That means you're over the target. Well done.
I'm over the target.
Nice job.
So tell us what they're telling. Obviously, in school, they're teaching children about, water plus warmth plus carbon dioxide in the presence of sunlight gives plant growth, right? Because that's what I was taught at school.
That's all changed now. They're teaching children in many of the chapters in the books. It has Greta Thunberg talking about the Earth's on fire. We should be really scared. The planet's going to blow up. So we have 100,000 parents in our network, and we've had a lot of parents contact us with concerns to say, My child came home from school and they were in tears, shaking, so upset, saying, I'm not going to be able to have children. And the mother obviously said, what are you talking about? The earth isn't going to be here. We're told that it's on fire. It's going to burn up. There's a climate crisis. Now, with my children, they're 7 and 10. I teach them that we should love the earth, look after the earth, pick up rubbish on the street, don't waste energy, don't pollute the water and air. But there is no crisis where the earth's going to blow up. I don't want my kids to think that the earth's going to blow up and they should live in constant terror and fear. So there's a difference between looking after the planet and the climate alarmism, and kids are getting what's called eco-anxiety. I talked to a psychologist a few weeks ago, and there was a child in the UK who wrote a suicide note, and it was due to the climate burning up. They wanted to kill themselves.
So sad.
Terrible.
Just so sad.
Wow.
And if you won't fight for the kids, then you won't fight about anything.
Yeah. So we have children who are terrified about becoming adults and having children themselves. We have children who are being twisted, abused. The trans agenda, I would actually say, is Munchausen syndrome by proxy, or fabricated induced illness. And I dealt with that as a social worker, but on an institutional national scale, where the government is saying to these children through its agencies, the school, that there's something wrong with you when there's nothing wrong with that kid, and you need to have medical or chemical or surgical intervention, and then you'll be okay. When actually, children who are confused, if that so happens, what they need to be told is, there's nothing wrong with you.
Nothing wrong with you.
The way that you are.
Yeah, you're just fine.
Yeah,
you're just fine.
Absolutely fine.
I tell my kids, you're born as you should be. And I always tell my kids, you are the best version of yourself. No one else can be a better you than you. You are born as you should be. You should love yourself and accept yourself. No one's born perfect, but you're born perfectly as you should be. And we all have flaws. That's natural. But if parents can teach their children how to love and accept themselves, that's a great way to bulletproof your kids against the radical ideology. I'm developing in the process, I'm writing a webinar series called How to Bulletproof Your Children Against Radical Ideologies. And that could be in the schools, the libraries, or watching TikTok, or talking to friends who are indoctrinated. But you mentioned about parental subversion. In Ireland, our children it's in the NCCA, the curriculum document that's teaching teachers. It says, what happens in the classroom stays in the classroom. And in our books, there's a class contract that children have to sign, is a class contract, and to keep a secret from mommy and daddy. The books are purchased by the state and they're locked up in school. So parents don't see the books unless you're a mother like me and you want to see all the books. And I have seen all the books. My school will not be teaching transgenderism because I've had many meetings with the principal and my letters have been forwarded to the board of management. So my school is quite, safer than many because I'm at the door a lot.
Well, that's a brilliant effort. The other thing that needs to happen is parents need to be pushed that you have a role in that school and you need to advocate for your kid and know you're not a big mouth. You need to go shield that kid. I remember back when this was young and innocent and I was young and had hair, my son, who's now an adult, he was a typical 5-year-old on an elementary school in Charleston, South Carolina. And, I knew to look for this. I have a master's in education. I knew to be watchful for this. Principal calls me in and says, Tom is doing good, but he's got he's struggling a little bit with some attention deficit stuff. We think he'd really benefit from Ritalin. I knew all about that. And it's like, so where's the doctor that was prescribing Tom Ritalin? Well, we don't have a doctor, but we can certainly connect you with one that, then Tom can focus better. And I said, here's the thing. Tom's fine. There's nothing wrong with Tom. The problem is that you guys no longer let the children play during recess. They're not allowed to run around because you have liability insurance issues and you won't let them fall and skin their knees. They're not allowed to play a game we used to call Smear the Queer or Tag because that would ostracize others and put some kid into a very bad hurt locker of feelings. So my advice is if you want Tom to get better at recess, give him a soccer ball, let him kick it around with his friends, and I'm going to bet we're okay here. Now, Tom never did get Ritalin. Tom does grow up to get a full ride scholarship to the John Maxwell School of Mathematics at the University of Edinburgh in Scotland. Tom then goes on to the University of Helsinki to get a master's in data science, where he worked for a fancy bank, and now he is in Japan with his wife in Osaka, speaking Japanese, Finnish, English. So somehow, somewhere,
He survived without
The
Ritalin.
attention deficit disorder went away, and I credit that soccer ball I put in his hands.
I was at an event last weekend, Battle of the Ideas. It came over from, it's based in the UK, but they do them in Dublin as well every year. And it was brilliant. There was a panel of psychologists, psychotherapists, professors, and the talk was how they are over-diagnosing children. They're saying, putting children who are different into a box. You have ADHD, you have autism, you're on this spectrum and that spectrum. When really, no, every kid is different. Let them flourish as they are. They might have more energy than the other student. They're not a hyperactivity disorder. They're just an energetic 7-year-old boy. So they're over-diagnosing and trying to medicalize every child to maybe take away their critical thinking if we drug them enough, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Create zombies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to come in and say something about schooling, and then Jana, I'm going to ask you what can people do to support you?
Yep.
And the great work that you're doing, as well as others in Ireland, because you're part of a large movement.
Yep.
So my children never ever went to school, and one of the reasons why was I was really clear: school is a weapon of imperialism, which is why the British brought schools to India, not because they wanted an educated populace. No, they wanted to train those children in.
You bet.
We're your lords and masters. Listen
saw it in Hong Kong. I saw it in Hong Kong.
Parents. Yeah. Follow our gods, not your gods. So it's a tool of imperial control. And we see that rolling out more and more. And one of the great things I think in the Irish Constitution is that it protects the rights of parents to home educate. However, it doesn't always work, or not all families can do this for whatever reason. It does take a hell of a lot. So people got to do what they can, like you're doing it, Jana, to protect your children that are going to school. Because if we're, like you said earlier, Blaine, if we're not going to fight for our children, then what is the point, right? So I just want to say that my little soapbox bit about that, right?
Well, we're 3 good parents, and we all have soapboxes.
That's right. I could tell you a very short, funny story about my son. Right, he's now 21. He's got a local part-time job. And he's talking to lots of young people working there. They say to him, "Where'd you go to school?" And he says, "Look, I was home educated." "Well, how did you do exams and socialize and stuff?" And my son says, "Well, look at us now. I ended up the same place as you."
That's right. That's it. Yeah.
He did it
and the PhD course is, hey, if you win the rat race, you're still a rat.
Yeah, that's right. Jana, what can people do to support you? And in particular, people in the United States, where there's this massive Irish diaspora.
Yeah, I was in the US. What can they do to support me? So we have a campaign we just launched this morning called Connected. It's getting parents connected to their children's classroom. So from the home to the school, go to naturalwomenscouncil.com. On our website, there's a donate button. Anyone can donate to support the work. None of us have a wage. We're all volunteer because we care. We use the funds for printing leaflets, doing events, etc. The Connected campaign, we wrote a 21-page booklet for parents to say what's in the classroom, where it's coming from, what you can do about it, and lots of references in this 21-page booklet. There's also a 7-page letter that they can send to their government or their school. We sent one out to every government official and every school in Ireland there 2 weeks ago. Very few responded. So really that's how they can support us. We have a big vision. The big vision I have is to grow this organization from a grassroots organization where we have 100,000 members, but really to grow it as a sort of an NGO, but not linked to the government. And what I'm doing is seeking investors across Ireland and the US. I flew to Washington, D.C. in October and up to Maine for a conference as well. I was with Moms for America and Moms for Freedom in D.C. doing a press conference. And I plan to come back to the US, whether it's D.C. or elsewhere, to present my big vision, which is to grow my organization to compete with the 32,000 NGOs that are in Ireland that take $6 billion a year of the tax money. They take $6 billion. We shake the bucket. But we're doing more for the women and children than any of those 32,000 NGOs. The other thing we struggle with is we struggle to have conferences. Every conference that my name or organization is attached to gets threats from Antifa and the hard left, and the conference is shut down. We were out of pocket $75,000 for one event that closed down due to these terrorists. So I am looking to buy land, build a conference center like Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. And I want to build this conference center so people like all of us from Ireland and around the world can gather to have these conversations about, art, history, culture, education, free speech, music, whatever we want. It's my center. It's not going to be canceled. So I'm looking for investors to put some money on the table because I have the plans. I have the land. I just need the funding, and we will never be canceled again, because unless we have human connection, we cannot get the message out. We can't get the truth out unless we can bring people together. And that's been the biggest obstacle. We get shut down all the time, 5 times in the last 2 years. So that's really my vision is that, but also to grow my organization and have 5 full-time staff members. There's right now 2 of us do full-time work without a wage, and then a few people do part-time. We need to grow it as an organization. We're looking for proper funding for that. But if anyone wants to just throw in €10 into the donate button, that will buy a few leaflets. That's
€10. We're looking out for billionaires that are on the right, because they all subscribe to my new channel, right? They're on the right side of the divide. We don't want money from George Soros in order to capture your organization.
No.
Billionaires that have got the heart in the right place.
That's it. So we want small donations for all the leaflets. We hit the streets. We drag around. I have a portable microphone system on a trolley. I drag it around. And the last time I dragged that microphone around the city for 8 hours, it was during the referendum in 2024. And 75% of the Irish people voted no, we're not going to erase woman and mother. So my voice and microphone were stronger than those 32,000 NGOs in every political party. But if I get proper funding, watch this space, we're going to be a formidable force.
Fabulous.
You will. That's awesome.
Indeed. Blaine, anything you want to say to finish up? And Janna, anything you want to say to finish up?
I'd like to ask a question. What can Ireland do? You mentioned peacefully protesting. We're beyond that. So if I were to take a message out to all of our networks that I'm involved with, what can we do to save Ireland? It feels hopeless at sometimes.
You're going to have to organize. That's the unfortunate part. And I don't mean organize to have big sales. What you're doing is admirable. It's beautiful. And we have to save the children, and we have to get the words out. But what the men need to do now, and I mean that I don't mean to be sexist, but what the men and the women need to do now is they need to organize into groups that, if called upon, they are not sitting ducks. They're not sitting prey. You all are under attack. You all have been invaded. And it's a matter of time. Those are fighting age men. They are training. When they go to prayer, they go out and do calisthenics. They do everything that would be called military training. And I'm telling you, you've got to take it very seriously. So organizations, look, the Irish have a rich history of doing that. And so it should come instinctually. I'm not advocating for violence or getting out in the streets and going and taking on someone. What I am saying is that everyone has to be able to defend themselves.
Yeah, that's great. And that's why the media is saying that men shouldn't be men, because masculinity is toxic. Right. That was a campaign, toxic masculinity. So there's a lot of men who are swimming in estrogen soup, who are probably having too much soy. They're not learning how to be real men.
That's right. We call them soy boys.
Soy boys. Yeah, we need real men out there. I agree.
Right. No soy girls either.
No soy girls. We love our men. We're not radical feminists. Men and women each have an important part to play in life.
I agree with that. Hey, Rich, over on my side, dangerousintellectuals.com. This Monday, we're covering entrepreneurship with a very inspired young man who's got things going on in Ireland for cities of next. Great technological mind and innovation. And then, as you know, I spent 30 years of my life learning how to destroy stuff really, really well. I'm good at that. So I've dedicated my post-retirement years to learning how to create stuff and build stuff. And we're standing up my company, Xeriant.com, Xeriant.com. It's a technology company, everything from AI, quantum encryption, advanced building materials, things that make people's lives better and healthier. And we have scientists from Hungary and Ukraine all the way over here to Seattle, and we're now getting operational, and it's wonderful.
Amazing. Well, when I get my 501c3 set up in America and you need to donate for a tax break, don't forget the little ones.
I will never do that. I will never do that.
And Janna, naturalwomencouncil.com?
Yeah, naturalwomenscouncil.com or naturalwomenscouncil.ie, but it's Natural Womens as in WOMENS. People sometimes put the AN, but naturalwomenscouncil.com. From our website, you can donate, you can look at our campaigns, you can also go to our YouTube channel. We have hundreds of hours of content. We have some great podcasts for people that aren't not just in Ireland, but what's happening here as far as the corruption of education is across the West. So it's a great series to watch. We have lots of different podcasts that will help anyone across the West.